Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters. I'm your host, Mitch. Glad to have you here. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about Commander on a budget. Today we have an episode of Commander's 2 Cents. On episodes like these, I give you my own personal take on topics about the format in general and current news. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. And while you're at it, subscribe and review our podcast as well. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support. So in today's episode, we're going to find out what's the most legit color identity. In the Commander world, there's been plenty of arguments on what color or color combination is going to be better than others. Now, there are plenty of ways to go about identifying which of the color identities is best, but here's mine. The color identity with the highest percentage of legit commanders wins. Now, what exactly do I mean by legit? Well, the commander has to have 100 or more decks on EDH Rec. So Golos is definitely a legit commander, but Chandler is not. If you want to learn more about how I got all this data, check out the Cost of Your Commander Collection episode. But also, just a quick disclaimer before we get started. With this data set, I decided to take out the partner commanders because they really mess with the data. For example, some people build around just one of the partner commanders, which is extremely illogical, and other weird things happen, so I'm just going to throw them out. It makes everything a lot simpler. So because of that, I won't be including 4 color identities in this episode because each of them really only has one actual commander to their name outside of partners. For all you that are going to say now that this isn't a true test of which is the best color identity because these aren't included, too bad. I'm doing the best I can with the data I've got, and I had to make certain decisions, so just live with it. So with me mocking some people, and with all that said, let's get into it. Like any reverse order top 10 list, let's start things off at number 10. And the 10th most legit color identity is going to be Bant. Currently in Bant, there are 15 commanders to choose from, and 12 of those are legit. So for all you math majors out there, that's going to be a legit commander percentage of 80%. In other words, whenever Wizards makes a legendary Bant creature, 80% of the time, it's going to have 100 more decks on EDH Rec. In my opinion, that's a pretty high legit percentage, and you don't have too many flops in there. Let's take a look at some of the Bant commanders on both sides of the spectrum. Arcades the Strategist is the number 1 Bant commander with 2,172 decks. There's a decent gap between Arcades and Tuvasa, which comes in second at 1,712. And the Bant commander that is a flop, but the closest one out of those to being legit is Treva the Renewer. Currently, it's got 52 decks on EDH Rec, and yes, that makes it a flop and not legit. But now it's time for us to move away from Bant and on to number 9. And the 9th most legit color identity is colorless. Apparently, the lack of having a color is a legitimate thing. Currently, there are 8 colorless commanders, and 7 of those are legit. In other words, if you're looking at one of the colorless commanders, there's an 87.5% chance that it's legit. Now, this is probably the part of the episode where people who are experts in stats are going to say, well, 8 isn't a lot of decks. There's no way that you could consider this to be an actual percentage to use in an episode. And to that I would say, well, I'm not a statistician, so too bad, I'm keeping it in. Anyways, let's look at a quick spread of colorless commanders from the top to the bottom. So the most played colorless commander by far is Kozilek the Great Distortion with 1,125. There's quite a huge gap between that and number 2 with Traxos at 332. And the only colorless commander that is not legit is the very sad Ulamog the Infinite Gyre with 32. Ulamog, you are a failure compared to your other colorless compatriots, and you should be ashamed of yourself. But now it's time for us to move on to number 8. And the 8th most legit color identity and commander is Simic. Currently, Simic has 19 commanders to choose from, and all but 2 are legit. That's a legit commander percentage of 89.47. Now, many commander players consider blue and green to be 2 of the more powerful colors in Commander. So when this one showed up on the list, I wasn't really that surprised. But now let's take a look at the range of Simic commanders. On the top end, there's Tatyova, which has 1,865 decks built around her. There's a decent gap between that and second place with Kumena at 1,263. And just missing being a legitimate commander is the flop, which is Zagana Utopian Speaker. Just 8 decks away from being legitimate, better luck next time, Zagana. But now let's move away from number 8 and on to number 7. And the 7th most legit color identity is Sultai. So basically, if you take Simic and you add black to it, it becomes slightly more legit. And yes, I didn't use a land to represent Sultai because there's no land that has the word Sultai in it, so here's a banner, here you go. Yeah, I could have used the Tri-land, but no, I went with this, so it's fine, leave it. Anyway, there are 10 Sultai commanders out there, and only one of them isn't legit. So 9 out of 10, we get 90%. That's a high legit commander percentage. So let's take a look at the spread of Sultai commanders. Well, Drotha is definitely at the top at 4,090, and it's one of the most played commanders of all time. There's quite a big gap between that and Yarok, which still sees a ton of play with 2,207 decks. And then poor Vorosh the Hunter isn't quite legitimate, just missed it by 10 decks. But now let's move away from Sultai and on to number 6. And the 6th most legitimate color identity in Commander is Izzet. Out of the 20 Izzet commanders that are out there, 18 of them are legit. Now for those of you that have been paying attention, you might say, wait, Izzet's got 90%, Sultai also had 90%, so shouldn't they be tied? Now my answer to that would probably be, well, Izzet's just got more commanders, so it's more legit, let's just stick with that, it's fine. Again, 90% is a lot of legit, so chances are if you're looking at an Izzet commander, it's legit. One of those legit commanders that you're going to see in Izzet is Niv-Mizzet Perrin. Currently this version of Niv-Mizzet has 2,293 decks. Jorah Weatherlight Captain is also another legit Izzet commander with 1,730, but unfortunately for Tibor and Lumia, they just missed the cut. At 94 decks, they are currently 6 decks off of being considered legitimate. But now it's time for us to move away from Izzet and on to number 5. And the 5th most legitimate commander color identity is Mardu. Mardu has a legit commander percentage of 90.91%. So out of the 11 Mardu commanders, only one of them isn't legit. And as you know, all the other Mardu commanders make fun of that one flop commander all the time. So to find out what commander that one is, let's look at the spread. Well, it certainly isn't Edgar Markov, who comes in with 3,302 decks. And it definitely isn't Queen Marchesa, who comes in with 1,830. It most definitely is Oros the Avenger. At 74 decks, poor little Oros is 26 away from actually being legit. And by this point, you might have noticed a certain little pattern. These 3-color dragons don't seem to see too much play. I'll leave it up to you to guess if any more of them show up through the rest of this episode. But anyways, it's time to move away from Mardu and on to number 4. So the 4th most legit commander color identity is actually 5-color. Give me a break on this one, I had to pick something to represent it. Yeah, Mana Confluence can go in any deck, it's fine. I put the words 5-color up there, so it's fine. Anyways, 5-color decks have a legit commander percentage of 95.83%. In other words, there are 24 commanders out there that are 5-color, and 23 of those are legit. Commander players love options, and they love their 5-color commanders. Well, except for one of them. Anyways, at the top, we've got Golos Tireless Pilgrim with 2,723 decks. Golos likes to cast really big and dumb powerful spells. And then there's Jodah, who has 2,285 decks, and Jodah likes to cast really big and dumb powerful spells. Are you seeing a pattern here? And the only flop for a 5-color commander is Sliver Legion. Sliver Legion, you are definitely a very expensive flop with only 47 decks to your name. But anyways, moving on from 4th place, let's move on to second place. Make sure you comment below on how I made an error and this says a 2 instead of a 3. But wait, actually, oh, 1 second, I've got a note here. There is a tie, so we've got 2 at 2. So both of these at number 2 are going to be in no particular order, so here we go. And the first one in the number 2 slot is Abzan. Abzan has a perfect legit commander percentage at 100%. That's right, there are 7 Abzan commanders out there, and each and every single one of them is legit. So I actually can't show you any flops when I'm showing you some of these commanders. Gave Guru of Spores is at the top with 1,366. Carador Ghost Chieftain comes in second at 1,040. And the closest thing to a flop is Dagatar the Adamant with 134 decks. So again, if you're looking at an Abzan commander, there's a 100% chance that it's legit. So pressure's on Wizards, don't mess up on the next one. So now let's move on from number 2 and move on to number 2. Again, there's a tie. So the color identity that also comes in at second place is Temur. And as you might have guessed, it has the exact same legit percentage and the exact same number of decks. The most popular of the Temur commanders is Animar Soul of Elements with 1,911 decks. There's a slight gap between that and second place with Riku of Two Reflections at 1,201. And the closest thing to a flop is Intent the Dreamer with 260 decks. Intent is showing all those other 3-color dragons how it's done. But now it's finally time for us to move away from number 2 and on to number 1. And you might be asking yourself, well, how can this one be number 1? Didn't we just have the last 2 that had 100%? What's better than 100%? Well, those 2 had 7 commanders to their name, and this one's got more, so it's number 1. I'm just saying it's number 1. So coming in at first place as the most legit color identity in Commander is Jeskai. Like Temur and Abzan, Jeskai also has a 100% legit commander percentage, but it has 9 commanders instead of 7. Wizards just can't miss when it makes a Jeskai commander, the people love it. And now I've jinxed them, so the next one's definitely going to be a flop. But Kaikar Wind's Fury is definitely not a flop with 1,887 decks. And then everyone's favorite, Narset Enlightened Master, is also not a flop at 1,418. Even Numat the Devastator is a legit commander with 189. Now, one thing to note with all this, obviously color identities that have a lot of older commanders that weren't made for Commander in mind have somewhat of a disadvantage when it comes to these numbers. There is absolutely no perfect solution when it comes to analyzing this, it's just for fun. So even if you like Jeskai a lot, don't just take this video to your friends and say, here's proof that Jeskai is better than all your color combinations because I like it the best. Commander's about fun, so go have fun and build whatever you want. And with that, this show is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know if you were surprised that a certain color identity didn't make this list or did make this list. And make sure you're following us on social media for more updates and sneak peeks on future episodes. Again, a huge thank you to my patrons who help make this show possible. I truly couldn't do any of this without your support. If you want to support this channel directly, consider becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, including being able to vote on future commanders for deck techs. There are even tiers where you get your own personalized deck tech dedicated to you. You can check out all the Patreon tiers and rewards at patreon.com/commandersquarters. If you haven't already, make sure that you like and subscribe to the channel. Here at the Commander's Quarters, we're all about budget Commander. So while you're at it, go ahead and check out some of our other types of episodes. And with that, I'm out of here. Thanks again and have a good one.